KILR Killer Game.
Hello gamers, simmers, and pilots. I am the Killer Gamer. Welcome back. Glad to have you back here for the tour around the world tour with Sierra's Propilot USA, which not too much different from the regular Propilot, just has patches. It's just pretty much patched up. But sometimes things don't quite work out the way that we think they're supposed to work out. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about our flight because it's going to be a fun one. Okay, so some of you may already know that this is the SubLogic flight simulator, the scenery disc number 9. This is what we were using on Flight Simulator 2, 3, and 4. Keep things consistent. We used it on this particular map. We used it on all the other simulators, but this was the last portion of that until things started to change. The reason for that, you'll notice here on this map that it ends up here on the top. And there would have been more footage, more scenery north of it. That would have been scenery disc number 8, and it was never made. So there are two sections around Louisiana, Georgia, that was not completed, and Montana, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and that wasn't completed either. So what did we actually do? Flight Simulators 2 and 3, they started going east, back east. But the others continued to go north. So Flight Simulators 4 on up continue to go north, which is what we'll be able to do with this one once we get to that point. So, and then we'll be changing. We'll be using a different type of map at that time. So, this particular flight here, we're here at Dubuque. We're going up here to La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is the north airport before the scenery ends on Flight Simulator 2 and 3. We're going to be doing a VFR flight right along the Mississippi River, right up to La Crosse. We did that same thing on all the other flight simulators too. So if you'd like to see what that looks like in comparison as far as how each of the simulators, how they envisioned what the Mississippi River looked like, this is a great opportunity and a good example of why I do each of these flights on all the different simulators. It's not about just comparing the simulators in general. You get to see the individual flights and see how they look between all the simulators. You know, how well did they do the rivers or airports or whatnot. And so you'll get to see that here. Something else that I wouldn't mind doing is some ATC, and that is going to move the aircraft if we do that. it also winds up changing the weather too, which is kind of annoying. But we've got this saved, so if I don't like what it does, we can go back to this. Let's go ahead and create the flight. I like how this will close your active flight plan, and when I tried to do it, the flight plan wasn't working. Let me turn off everything here. That might help. I might also close out of the simulator and log back in. So let's take a look at something here. Also, too, something I can show you is that there's a co-pilot that kind of helps you. It's under this dual flight here. Aha! This might explain why it wasn't working. So we're going to have to turn on the co-pilot on board, and then he will handle the nav radios and all that other stuff, which is great, since in some cases it doesn't give you the frequency to start off with. You can also have him give you flight advice, monitor altitude, monitor heading. We haven't done that yet. We have not done something with this instruction. This might be a little fun to play around with on this one. So let's go ahead and do that flight plan, and then we'll turn all that stuff on, and this might be a rather entertaining flight. We'll see what that does. DownwindSim. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, this is definitely another oldie. As far as it being a goodie, well, that depends. We've had some challenges with this where the planes were doing some weird things that they shouldn't be doing. So this is another weird thing too that I've noticed. You should be able to select the aircraft here that you want to fly, but when you're done with the flight plan, it just brings up the Cessna again, and that's kind of annoying. So we'll just leave it on that. This is running in PC emulator. I'm running this in PC emulator. So it's emulating a Pentium MMX 233 with a Sound Blaster All-32 and a S3 Verge graphics card with Voodoo. This can't use the Voodoo 3DFX, so that's kind of a moot point. And this is in a Windows 98 environment. Unfortunately, although Windows 98 will see my controller, it winds up freezing the simulator. When I load it up and click fly, it doesn't do anything. It freezes right there. Kind of frustrating, but so I have to fly it with the keyboard, and that's not easy. It'd be nicer if you could remap the keys, but unfortunately, there's not an option to do that. But when it works, it's great. Where are we at? Dubuque. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. See, and this is another one of those things, too. This was 1998, and out of the box, you could create a flight plan, and you had ATC following you. We didn't see that in Microsoft until 2002. So, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Oh, I just realized it gives you the communications right here. So, mental note, make sure you jot this stuff down. This seems to be the only place that it's going to be at. There is our flight there. It actually shows you the borders of the states, and the Mississippi River acts as that border. This is another thing that I don't like what it does. The generating weather is great, but it only gives you broken weather, broken clouds, or overcast. It doesn't do as good of a job as I would hope. So this trip should take us about 47 minutes, about 91 miles. And it automatically moves you to the runway. I don't like that either. I like to be able to be where we are parked and be able to taxi to it, but this one doesn't like to do that. Other than PC emulator or VMware, I don't think this would work properly in Windows 7 or Windows 10. It probably would give you an error stating you can't install it, or it just wouldn't work right. So we've got it running in an environment that it was meant to be run on, which should be the same as actually having the actual hardware, in theory. I'm going to change the cloud coverage back to what we had. It was about 1/8. That's not quite the same. But I guess that'll be okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and get it started here. We have to turn on the fuel tank, otherwise we have issues. Turn on the battery, and then we'll see if we can get it started here. It's not moving there. We had this problem on the last flight too, where I can't get the magnetos over here to start. For some reason, the only way they worked is to turn the fuel selection off, and then I could turn it on. But then I would have to turn the fuel gauge back on. Otherwise, the engines would just shut off. So, yeah, a little weird. I think your average person would be so frustrated with this simulator that they would just throw it out the window. I've had my moments where I wanted to do that. But I stick my ground and I try to work with what's here. And so sometimes you just have to be a little flexible and find a way to make it work. Okay, that should be ATIS. It should be tuning in the ATIS. And it's not. Let's try ground. That's 121.80. Let's give it a moment here. Wow, ATC seems to be broken. Either that, or it only works from certain airports. Let's go to ATC communication here. Full stop, right hand. See, auto tune COM1 radio. That's on. And here, auto taxi to runway. That's checked off, but it still takes us over there anyway. Let me try C again. What happens if we click this? Nothing. All right, well, who needs ATC, right? We can do this without them. Lacrosse 108.4. I think ATC just abandoned us. See, here's another reason why I do these flights from airport to airport. You'll notice that some of the features seem to work the way they should at some airports, and then some other ones, they don't. But the only way that you will find that out is by these individual flights. So like I said, you're getting the full experience here on what it's like playing this old simulator. And so that way, if you want to go back and play this simulator and you're getting frustrated and wondering why certain things aren't working, well, you'll know you're not the only one. Ooh, is auto coordination off? Good. Yeah, auto coordination is off. Yeah, that auto coordination tends to have some issues. Okay. TextRich. It's still taking us off at an angle there. Do you see that? Even though I turned off the surface winds, it still moved us off to the side. There is Dubuque right there. Now, for those of you who watched the propilot 98 version of this flight, you may notice that the textures on the buildings look different. Yeah, they changed the textures, I think, with like the first or the second patch. So that's why I play the propilot 98 unpatched out of the box. So that way you can see the difference between the two. Hey, Travis. Yeah, the ATC, oh, you know what? I think you're right. Yeah, see, the textures are a little bit different. I think you're right. When I jotted down the communication information, I think you're right. I think I did put in the destination information. Good catch. See, and I learned stuff from you folks too. That's why I like doing these live streams. So here's the Mississippi River, and we'll follow this north. So Travis, I know that you collect the classic simulators. I think you have the propilot. Do you have the propilot USA by any chance? What has been your experience in regards to CR propilot? For example, I've noticed that when I hook up my controller, the simulator freezes. Now you actually run with actual hardware. You don't run in a emulated environment like what I'm doing. So does it do the same thing? In theory, it should, but because it's emulating actual hardware, does it actually do the same thing on a real machine? Are you able to get this running with actual with an actual controller? Oh, look, THPAP is asking me if I want to become famous. Oh, buy followers. Sure, why not? Let me just click that ban button right there, and bye-bye. I had to do that earlier. Now look what they did. They took me off course. All right. I am planning to actually build, or I should say rebuild, restore, a classic Windows 98 machine with some old hardware that I got that I never got rid of. So I am actually planning on doing that. Now, will I do streams or recordings from it? I don't know. I would have to export the footage, I think, with like a serial cable, parallel cable, or something, and be able to input it into a modern computer to do the recording. I like to have a direct recording of what it is that we're doing. One thing that I'm hoping to get a better experience on is Flight Simulator 2000. That one seems to be really tough to try to find the right combination. Whether it's VMware, PC emulator, or actual hardware, trying to find the sweet spot where everything is compatible and you get good frames and everything. I was running some tests a couple days ago with PC emulator and Voodoo 2 emulation, And there's an option to do SLI. So, where you can emulate having two Voodoo 2 cards in SLI mode. And I was running some tests on that to see what the frame rate was going to be. I got about 11 or 12 FPS out of Flight Simulator 2000. I don't know if that's the max or if it can be better than that. In Chicago, when you have the scenery maxed out, I think it went to about 8 frames per second. Well, text, top-notch parts, that's debatable. There are some stuff like graphics cards and sound cards that are... I mean, if you really want to push it, some of that stuff is not cheap. I think if I were to build a 98 machine, I would want to get an all 64. I might have the right graphics card. I have a TNT Riva 2. I think that was a pretty good graphics card for the day. And the board that I have is an AMD board. I believe the board and the AMD... I know I have a K62, but I think the one that I have for the Athlon XP, I think that one will still work with Windows 98. I have a couple of motherboards. There's one that I have with an AMD K62. And that one, that motherboard, has ISA slots and PCI slots. So that one will be ideal of putting together a DOS and a Windows 3.1 with a dual boot with Windows 95. I think that machine would work really good for that. Yeah, I see what you mean in regards to that. Yeah, you're right. My first PC that I bought, and I mean IBM compatible, was a Pentium 90 from Packard Bell. I don't have that machine anymore. And I don't really want that machine back. That was the only PC I actually bought. After that, I started, because I tried to do some expanding with it, and yeah, well, that didn't quite work out very well. So that's when I started building my own computers after that. And the first motherboard that I bought, I still have. That is the one that I was talking about. It's a tie-in board, which... oh, it's way back there. Which is... I still have that. So... and I went with AMD because the Pentiums were too expensive, so I went with AMD. And so the K62 was the first processor that I got. And I never did have a true DOS 6.22 with a Windows 3.1. That I never had that set up back then. So my first actual PC experience was with Windows 95. Hey, what's this going up there for? And let's see, what was I doing with Windows 95 at the time? Flight Simulator 5 was one of them. MAME, the arcade emulator, was in its early stages back then. Let's see, that's also when I had the Star Trek pinball. I've also got KISS pinball too. The band KISS. I've got that also. I don't know where that's at. I have to try to find that one. Also, this right here, 3D Ultra Pinball. I think I had that running on Windows 95. It wasn't too much after that when I built an actual Windows 98 machine, and I was using that for quite a bit because then I had Flight Simulator 98. Aurelio over on YouTube. He's like, without subtitles, he understood about 70% of what I'm saying. Yeah, sometimes I tend to speak a little fast. And I do tend to ramble at times. That's why I have a show called Shep Rambles. I came up with that because I was trying to find a name for that series, which is just a variety of different types of news topics. I'm like, what the heck do I call it? And I've been picked on the past for rambling on about stuff, and that's how I came up with the name. I'm like, why don't I just take that and use that to my advantage? So thus, that's how Shep Rambles got started. And I know some of you out there watch it. Some of those episodes, some of those news articles get a lot of views, and some don't. It's hit or miss with those. But if you do watch them, I hope you like them. I hope you find those entertaining and useful. I try to find fun articles, interesting articles, things that I come across, and I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. That's interesting. And a variety of different topics. Which is what I like to do on KILR TV. I like to have a variety of different stuff, so that way you don't have to go all over the place to try to find certain types of information. You know, you've got a home on KILR TV where you can have obviously it's not the be-all end-all, but you know, a place where you can get some of that news information done in a fun type of style. You know, and still get the, kind of get an idea of things that are going on. take a look here. We're getting blown off to the side here. I'm not sure why. At the terrain, I'm noticing the hills here. I can't remember if I saw that in ProPilot 98 or not. It had to have been here. But, well, who knows? Maybe they did enhance this just a little bit. Eventually, I did move to a Pentium. I think the Pentium 3 was the first Pentium I went to. That was around the time where the Pentium started, where AMD started slouching with their processors. And Intel was definitely better. And now it looks like AMD has caught back up with the Ryzen and in some ways surpassed Intel. I haven't built a new PC in like 7 or 8 years. But if I ever get the money to do so, I think the next machine that I would build would be a AMD Ryzen machine. Based on the research, I've been rather impressed by what I've seen with the Ryzens. I thought maybe I would just get an i9, but I think the Ryzens perform better. Whereas the Intel's overclock better, but I've not been much into overclocking because I think it shortens the life of your processor. Frugal Sim. I haven't watched them. I haven't watched Frugal Sim. Some of the YouTubers I've watched, I think Aviation Pro is one. I've watched Clumsy. Q8 Pilot is another one. I think that's his name. If you have seen some of the older episodes here on the ProPilot USA or just ProPilot, you may have noticed that when I did the external views, when it pans to another view, it does it very quickly. That was VMware. I thought that was normal. I don't think it is. Since this is on emulated hardware, the panning when it goes from one camera to another is slower. And it looks more natural. I think that's how it's supposed to be. But this is running rather well. Which it should, according to the box. ProPilot minimum is a Pentium 90. Preferred is a 133. And I'm running this on a Pentium MMX 233, which seems to be the sweet spot. It's the fastest Pentium I can run it on, where the emulation is running steady at 95 to 100%. Depending upon the machine that you're using, the higher the processor, the harder your machine has on trying to keep it at 100%. And you can't go too much faster. They don't have Pentium 2 or 3 emulation. And I think the developer for PC Emulator has stated, and I think the developer is female. Her name I think is Sarah. I think she said that she has no intentions of going that high. The forks off of PC Emulator, 86 box is one of them. That one does have Pentium 2 and AMD K62 and K63 emulation. But from what I've read, it's pretty clunky. Sim Hanger. I think I've watched some from that channel too. Our VOR has tuned in. We are 19.8 miles away from La Crosse, and I can see it from here. La Crosse is right there. Aviation 101, I think I've seen some videos from them too. Intel several generations of motherboards for one processor. Okay, I see downtown La Crosse right there. We are 11 miles away. I start to drop flaps around 10 miles out. Ah, okay. I think I know where the airport's at. It should be on a little island right there, and the Mississippi River will go around. It. All right, let's drop one thing of flaps. And there's the runway. We can see it. There's the airport. Okay, Text. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming by. And I love the feedback and everything on the computers. And remember, this stream will be up on Twitch for about 10 days. And then this footage actually gets edited into the separate episodes, so you'll always be able to come back and be able to catch what you missed. Let's drop another thing of flaps. Going down a bit faster than I would like. But I'm hoping that as we flare, the airspeed will slow down here. Not butter. Maybe a little bit of margarine. But much better than what happened on the previous flights. Aurelio. Thank you, thank you. You're going to have me all emotional and choked up. Here we go. We're here at La Crosse, Wisconsin. Glad that we actually had a landing here that was better than the past couple of flights. Sometimes it takes practice to get better. Now you may be thinking with all these episodes that I should be good by now, but keep in mind that I do these episodes in batches. Like I'll do 3 or 4 flights together and then edit them out and then schedule them out, and then I start working on other simulators. So there is actually time in between everything of when I'm going back and forth between simulators. So as I start getting better with one, I'll be moving to other simulators, and by the time I get back, then it's almost, I have to like relearn the keyboard controls and how the simulator felt when I was flying it. So that's kind of why it's like that. But in any case, I hope you liked this video. If so, click that like button, share the video, and leave some comments because it helps out. It helps out the video, gives it a chance that other people out there will be able to see it, because there are other people out there that are propilot fans and maybe started off with that simulator and have no idea that there is a series featuring propilot. So help each other out. That's what we do here with the Killer community. We help each other out and we build and grow the community together. And I hope you'll be a part of that. So click that subscribe button and that notification bell, so that way you get notified of future flight simulation content that's uploaded to the channel. Do all kinds of flight simulators here on the channel, from old ones to the latest ones, believe it or not. Flight Simulator 2020, yes, we do that one here as well. Some of these are weekly and some of them are monthly. So the notification bell will let you know when your episode of your favorite series is uploaded to the channel. I also do some live streams over on Twitch. Oftentimes when I'm recording episodes, I will live stream them, which gives you a chance to be part of the show, see these weeks and months ahead of time, and be able to see it with all the technical glitches and goofs and all that stuff that winds up on the cutting room floor, because I have to kind of smooth out the video and try to make it flow a little bit. It's kind of an editing thing. It's kind of a video production thing. But with me being entertainer, I'm also a video editor and a video producer, something that I take pride in, because I have a real a talent. I'm aware that I have a talent for that, and it's something that I really enjoy doing, is putting together videos. Also, another thing that I do is over on Instagram, I'll take pictures and photos of projects that I'm working on. Gives you an idea of what happens behind the scenes in regards to maybe the process of some of the stuff that I'm working on, as far as setting up certain flights. Gives you a chance to take a look at that and see what's coming up. And then Twitter, we use that for our official communication source with you folks, for official killer news and announcements and retweets of things that I think you might find interesting. Gives me a way to let you know in advance of when I'm going to be going on live, so that way you got plenty of time there to get ready to join the live stream. Plus, at times I will let you all know when a new video is uploaded to the channel. Not every single video, but certain ones that usually get more views. Snapchat, once in a while, a little snap here and a little bit of video here. Maybe not so much chat unless it's on the video, but hey, you know. If you've got an account, you can certainly add us as well. And then Patreon, if you do like what it is that I do and would like to help support and grow the channel, there is that. I greatly appreciate it. And guess what? You get something in return as well. Access to early videos, access to the Discord server, access to exclusive footage that you won't find on the channel. Things that I thought about doing and I decided not to. Prototype type of series, exclusive stuff, and even a blog, weekly blog as well. So go check all that out, and I greatly appreciate it. I really do. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next leg of our journey. Have a killer awesome day.